It's important to understand that a literature review is as much a process as a written product. And there are a lot of steps in doing it. So, the first step, I think, obviously, you need to search for relevant literature. And keep in mind, you need to be searching scholarly journal articles, scholarly books, scholarly research, right? So you don't necessarily want to do just a Google search, but maybe a Google Scholar search or look in journal databases. But first, you need to find your relevant literature. And keep in mind, the relevance is defined by what your topic is, what your research aim is, right? And you're looking for things that are both scholarly and on that topic. The next thing you're going to do, you're going to need to evaluate these sources. A literature review is very critical of what it finds. So you want to say, not just are these articles coming from peer-reviewed journals, but you know, what are their theoretical underpinnings? What are the methods being used? What are the questions they're asking? What are the answers you're finding? And how strong is the methodology behind those answers, right? So you're going to evaluate your sources not just for veracity, but in terms of a lot of qualitative components that are going to be relevant. You also need to categorize the literature, right? This is something that's very important. You evaluating source is taking a source on its own merits and pulling it apart and looking in it. Step 3, determining themes, schools of thought, debates, gaps. This is all about the overview of the literature. This is dealing with a plural number of articles to say, all right, what's going on in this literature, right? What have we got? Are people looking at different questions? Are they looking at trying to explain the same thing based off of different causes, right? There schools of thought about how things work? Is there a debate? Or are there gaps, right? And there are videos on identifying research gaps, but this is a very important part of the process is identifying the opportunities to do future research. But also you've got to get a handle on the literature and see it in terms of some groupings or categories here to understand the contours, the lay of the land, if you will. Then you've got to figure out, all right, for the presentation of this thing, right? Only now are we really getting at how you write the lit review. You say, all right, how am I going to present this? Now, the outline may have a lot to do with your research question because along with doing this lit review, you should be narrowing down your final research question. You should be saying, hey, what gap in the literature am I going to fill? And what exactly am I going to look at to do that? And the outline, or you have to say, how am I going to organize this literature to present it? Am I going to organize it around a pro-con debate, or am I going to organize it around different schools of thought? Am I going to order does it make sense to just do it chronologically, right? That is an important thing of how are you going to present and this literature in a way that reflects this categorization of literature and leads into the thing you're going to do in your paper eventually, the research question that you're going to eventually pursue. And finally, you write the literature review. And this is, usually this is part of a research paper. And so you actually are going to write that puppy up. And like I say, it's going to lead in, where this fits in your paper. It's usually after you introduce your topic and your subject, explain your research aims. You then usually have the literature review, and then it will be followed by the methodology or research design section. And a good thing to keep in mind that a literature review doesn't really end in a conclusion. It usually ends in a question, a research question, or it transitions to some kind of original research. And that's where, you stick the landing to a literature review when you come out of it with an understanding that, hey, here's a particular question or thing we need to look at that will advance our understanding of the overarching topic or research aim.